Now the tuck handstand is something that I've always struggled with from a mobility point of view. So trying to open the upper back and the hips up at the same time in that position is super challenging, especially when holding balance. So today I'm going to go through my two favorite mobility exercises for the tuck handstand. Now the cool thing is if we work on this mobility, it's also going to unlock or help you work towards the harder variation, or what's seen as the harder variation of the tuck, which is the 7 position. So straightening the legs in that position, trying to maintain the shoulder position on top of the hands, which is really challenging. So let's go through the first mobility exercise. And I'm going to show you the harder variation first. So the harder variation is using the foam roller and a barbell. We're going to set that up so that starts mid-thoracic, so mid-ribs. And then we're going to lay over that, grab hold of the barbell, keeping the hips nice and high, keeping the knees bent. And I'm just going to roll over that upper back area. Now that straight away is quite intense, but as I start to work into that, I can start to lower the hips. Now you can hear by my voice that it's getting harder and harder. This is still super challenging for me. So the goal is to take the hips down towards the floor, keep the arms dead straight, and try and get as much movement through that upper back as possible. Now if you find that's too aggressive, because it is pretty intense, you can start off with easier variations. So an easier one would just be to roll the area. So with the hands crossed across, so with the arms crossed over the chest, and then just rolling over the ribs in that position. We can do the same thing with the arms above the head. I could isolate and try and articulate each part of the spine. So starting again on that bottom rib, opening the back up as much as possible, trying to get the movement where the roller is, and then make your way up the back bit by bit. And you can obviously do repetitions there, find a part that needs more work. Now what you need to be careful of is that you don't arch through the low back. I actually can't do it very well, so you're not going to see it happening on me. But someone that likes to move in their low back, but is a bit tighter in their upper back, will tend to arch their low back instead of getting the movement where the roller is. So just be a little bit careful with that, and you might need to turn the abs and the glutes on when you're there. And then probably the best exercise for the tuck handstand is the chest to wall position. Now the chest to wall, what we're aiming for is to have our thighs parallel with the floor, our shoulders on top of the hands, and then we push in towards the wall. Now you need to set up a camera here to make sure that position is correct. What you don't want to be is here, and you don't want to be down here. So making sure that that's 90 degrees or thighs parallel with the floor. If you find that that's too hard to push in and you look more like this, then you just need to move your hands a bit further out and then slowly build the strength and capacity there to push in towards the wall all the time. If that's too easy, then I just take the hands in closer. So everyone's going to find a point here that it works them, and I would be aiming for around 20 to 30 seconds in this position trying to hold. Now you will find it easier if you tuck the head. I'm not a big fan of tucking the head, because when you're actually doing your handstand balance in the tuck, majority of the time you're going to be looking down towards the floor when you're finding balance. Now it is easier to tuck the head mobility wise, but it's much harder to balance. So I prefer people to get comfortable, do their mobility work down, and then if you do tuck the head, things are just going to be easier from a mobility point of view. And an alternative there, if you have smooth wool and socks on, is to slide the feet up and down. Now if you don't have smooth wool and socks, we need to be careful that you're not going to catch your toenails on the bricks, so you could use a slider. The only issue with the slider is it's super tricky to get into position and keep the slider in place. So if you've got a friend to help you into the position, it's much easier. But let's try. So set it up like that, turn the toes over, nice straight position, and then I'm going to slide down and then back up again. So same thing, I'm going to try and keep my shoulders towards the wall all the time. Now, if you are working towards the 7 handstand, you could do similar mobility exercises. So this one's just going to lock the knees backwards, so you're into that pike position. I'm going to open the chest up as much as we can. And then I'm just going to raise the hands up, elevate as much as I can while trying to open the chest and hold there. You can have someone hold your hands and put their knees into your back, but this is just really challenging just to hold this position. We can then make that harder and flip over. So now we're in the handstand position, And then from there, I'm just going to try and straighten the legs, keep the shoulders on top of the hands. If that feels easy there, I can try pointing the toes, or if I want to make it harder, I can move the hands back towards the wall. But again, set that camera up from the side so you can check that you're in this position, not this position or that position. Now the back to wall, tuck and 7 drills are still good, but they just don't work the mobility the same as the chest to wall versions. So these are good for learning to balance the tuck and balance the 7 position. That's hard there. So that one, my hands were too close to the wall. So to get into 7, I need to move back because my legs are going to go further in that direction. My hips need to go further in that direction. So further back to get into the 7. But again, you're seeing that it's more of a balance aspect there. Now it is intense from a positional point of view, and it's a good one to learn the transitions out of the 7 to the straight and from the straight to the tuck. But for mobility, stick with that chest to wall one. So even if you've got really good balance in your handstand and you can hold a straight, a tuck and a 7 freestand in, I would still be working the mobility using the chest to wall and the foam roller barbell version to make a cleaner, more efficient position. And even if you're newer to handstands, I would still work that chest to wall tuck version, as it builds really good strength, conditioning and mobility in that position that helps the all-round handstand balance and the strength exercises like presses, planches and handstand push-ups. If you're after coaching or help with your training, check out my app, link is down in the description, and I'll speak to you next time. Thanks guys.